going on, Facebook? Just reaching out to you. Just really wanted to kind of talk to you about mountains. It's Sunday. We're going on. This is the 29th day of being locked down. People struggle with different things in their life that they try to work on. They try to fix. But sometimes these mountains get too hard. And when I mean mountains, a lot of people look at mountains. Mountains can be relationships, mountains can be job opportunity, mountains can be getting off of probation, just looking for a new job. I mean, mountains can be anything that you want it to be. But the one thing that I want to talk to you guys about is how to go about conquering those mountains. Whenever we have these things in our lives and we constantly stumble and we constantly trip, normally it's due to it being a mountain that we just don't know how to either climb or we don't know how to even fix it. So the main thing that I'm going to talk to you about is how to go about conquering mountains. So I was looking up, kind of studying about mountains, and they had about four different techniques to conquering a mountain. So the first one, it says before that you even get involved in climbing a mountain, it says that you should either hire a guide or take a class on getting over that mountain. So the thing that how I want to relate this to life is sometimes we try to do these mountains on our own. And sometimes by trying to do these mountains on our own, it causes us to really get hung up in the middle of climbing. There's skills to every mountain, and every mountain is different. And if you have a mentor, if you have someone in your life, maybe a parent, if there's not a parent, maybe an uncle or aunt, but somebody that is either climbed that mountain or knows a little bit about that mountain. So I want you guys to really think about, if before you go and start trying to conquer a mountain, get you a guide or take you a class, get you some type of information, anything that you need in order to get over the hump. Because once you get to the top of the mountain, there's no other feeling like looking down and knowing that you conquered it. The second step to conquering a mountain is training. People try to climb these mountains in their lives, or they try to go through things without getting the proper training. And sometimes some of those trainings just could be school, education. If you don't like your job, you might need to go back to school and get some more training in that particular area. If you want to own a business, then you might want to get some training on how to apply for businesses, how to look at bank accounts and financial statements, all those types of things. But you need some training, and you definitely need somebody to help you through those things. But the key part about training, but I just saw Dan jump in, and I know Dan, he does a lot of boxing, but in order to become a really good fighter, a really good boxer, anything that you do, you have to go through a period of training. And that training is never going to be the amount of experience that you can get from training. It will never fully take you over the hump, because you have to have essential gear. And even though you have a lot of training, if you don't have the right gear to go over the mountain, you're definitely going to get hung up. And some of that gear that we need in life is maybe friends. Sometimes we need people to go with that walk with us. Sometimes we have to get the right information. Sometimes we have to read the right book so that we can be inspired the correct way. Because sometimes we go without the right information, or we go without the right equipment, and by the time we get up to the middle of the mountain, we have gotten too high up where we can't go back down. So we either going to get stuck, or we're going to keep on climbing without the proper utensils. So I want you guys to really start gathering up some of the things that you need in your life. If you need, if you need a loan, if you need just financial support, you might want to start asking people for the right things. And I wanted to say the one thing about the right things. There are some things that are important, and there are some things that are significant. And a lot of times whenever we get those two things confused, we'll start going after things that are important, but they're not significant. And what I mean by that is I want you to think about this. When you look at a car, it it's important to have a steering wheel. It's important to have a seat belt. It's important to have a seat. But without oil, without gas, those are significant. And if we don't find the significant things in our life and start to put these things in priority, a lot of times we start to climb the mountain, but we don't have the right equipment because we didn't think it was important or we didn't think it was significant. So what I'm suggesting for people out there is to really start looking at the people in our lives that are significant and then start to kind of put our priorities and then find people that are important. But you have to find an equal median in between all of what's not significant or what is significant or what's important and what's not important. And a lot of times we get that confused, and that's the reason why we don't really conquer mountains. And the last thing that they said was, in order to climb a mountain, you have to find the correct route. A lot of times we want to take the difficult route. I was just talking to a client today, and we were talking, and I told him sometimes we go through events in our lives, and then self sabotage and create a bigger problem than it was. So what I'm saying in the terms of mountains is sometimes we come up to a mountain and it's really not a mountain, it's just a hill. But by the time that we get insecure, by the time we get in our feelings, by the time we start acting out in behaviors that are not conducive to solving the problem, a lot of times we make a hill into a mountain. And then while we're in the middle of that hill, we realize that we made the mountain peak a little bit higher. And then it makes us lose motivation. It makes us lose the want to conquer that mountain. A lot of times I see a lot of my clients who are homeless, who are really struggling, are in really bad places in their life. I try to tell them it's a mountain. No matter whether it's big or whether it's small, you can conquer it. And I truly believe that we all as humans can ultimately conquer anything. And the thing about this is a lot of times people don't try to climb these mountains, but they don't use spiritual aspects of their life. And the reason why I'm going to talk to you about is the spiritual side of climbing mountains. If you notice, especially in the Bible, every time someone climbed the mountain, they always had a very deep connection with with their God. And whenever they got to the top, they always got to a point where their mind was at a point where they could receive all of the information, because the mountain aspect of our lives are wonderful. The part of it is that we have to go through a valley first, and a lot of the people don't like to go through the valley, but if you stick with the valley, you will make it to the top of the mountain. I was talking to my son the other day, and he asked me, he said, "Dad, I was in the shower the other day, and you always told me that I can do anything, and if I put my mind to it, I can make anything happen." And he asked me, he said, "Dad, do you think that I can make the water come out of the shower and make it stop?" And at first I didn't know how to answer that question, but I told him, you know what, if you believe it, you can make that water stop. And I don't want to create a belief system, especially in my children, that they don't believe that they can make anything happen. I don't want my children to ever believe that there is a mountain that they cannot climb, that there is a situation they cannot solve, because I believe that we as humans, we have the ability to fix anything that we put our minds to. All we have to do is get a guide, get someone in there to teach us, and we have to go through it, and we have to train. We have to get the proper essential gear for us to make that climb. But at the very end, choose a good route. If we're novice at this experience, don't try to take the hard route. And a lot of times, we as people, we want to take the hard route so that we can prove to people that we can do it. But sometimes we have to prove to ourselves. So why not take the easy route if it's available, and then go up into our level of skill? But if we're not skillful in creating situations, if you've never been through a divorce, or if you've never had children, or you going through something that you never went through before, why don't you just reach out and ask somebody and say, "I need help"? because I'm telling you, there's somebody else that's already climbed that particular mountain that you're trying to climb. So just reaching out to you on a Sunday, hoping that you're listening in. It's the 29th day. I can't believe that I've come up with 29 different topics, but tomorrow, I guess it'll be the 30th, and I'm going to keep giving these out to you just so that you guys can have a better understanding of who you are and what you can be in this life. So just signing out.